The reason why we're here currently speaking is that three girls, were murdered in Southport, and we're having our thoughts and prayers for three children and their grieving families. Additionally, 10 other people were injured, 8 of them children, 2 adults, many of them very seriously. Unfortunately, some mischief makers use this tragedy to spread hatred across our country. And we know Muslims have been targeted. We know people of colour have been targeted. We know, unfortunately, the hostile housing asylum seekers were set on fire. We know police officers have been assaulted across the country. His vehicle was set on fire. We know attempts have been made to harm mosques. And I was keen to bring us together with the support of the police, Home Office, and our elders and wise brothers and sisters, to make it quite clear, and I speak as the Mayor of London, there is no room in our city for racism, for Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and for any forms of hatred. And I think what's important, though, is we recognise the responsibility we have to make sure our places of worship and our communities are as safe and as secure as they can be. And that's why this practical meeting has been organised at such short notice, because you told me members of your congregation are scared to come to congregational prayers. You told me that many parents are bringing their children to the masjid because they're worried about their safety. I've been told that some families who go to Islamic ethos schools are worried about the term starting again in September and what additional security you can provide your children and their parents. And so what I want to do is provide practical support and assistance. Dr. Debbie Roots, my deputy mayor's here as well. She's been providing good support to you over the course of the last few years with me. So look, Short thank you for your introduction. I'm really keen to bring in Debbie and Elizabeth to talk through some of the practical assistance our colleagues in the police service obviously do, and then we'll have a question and answers and discussion.
The brutal killing of 3 young girls in what appears to be a racially charged act of violence has plunged London into mourning and sparked renewed calls for unity, justice, and an unflinching examination of the social tensions festering beneath the surface. As the city grapples with grief and outrage, political leaders are under intense scrutiny, not only for how they respond to the tragedy, but also for the deeper narratives they choose to emphasize or ignore. Mayor Sadiq Khan, known for his advocacy on inclusion and minority rights, has once again positioned himself as a voice against hate. In a series of public statements, he has condemned the killings, called for solidarity, and urged Londoners not to let this horrific act deepen divisions. But while many have praised his consistent messaging on anti-racism and unity, others accuse the mayor of being overly cautious, particularly when it comes to addressing violence within or directed toward the Muslim community. Critics argue that Khan's messaging has, at times, seemed to focus more on protecting Muslim communities from backlash than confronting broader societal failures. We cannot allow this to turn into an us versus them moment, one City Hall insider told me, but it's fair to ask whether the mayor is giving equal attention to the victims and the wider causes of violence, not just the fear of Islamophobia. This is not a new tension for Khan, whose own identity as a British Muslim has always influenced both his political brand and the criticisms leveled at him. He has walked a tightrope, often accused by the far right of being too soft on extremism, while also being a frequent target of Islamophobic rhetoric himself. In the wake of this tragedy, his detractors claim he is playing too heavily into identity politics at a time when the focus should be squarely on public safety, justice for the victims, and practical reforms to prevent future violence. Supporters, however, defend Khan's approach, arguing that amid rising hate crimes and polarization, it is precisely his job to ensure that marginalized groups are not scapegoated. The mayor is trying to prevent a cycle of retaliation and fear, says Dr. Sana Malik, a sociologist at King's College London. What we're seeing is the delicate balance between justice and social cohesion. Indeed, the broader political context cannot be ignored. With national elections on the horizon and the far right gaining traction in parts of the UK, every word from Khan and every silence is dissected for political meaning. The Metropolitan Police, under increased pressure, have vowed to treat the case with the utmost urgency and transparency. Meanwhile, community groups from across religious and racial lines have organized vigils and forums, reflecting a deep yearning for peace amid growing anxiety. The tragic deaths of these young girls have become a flashpoint in the national conversation about race, identity, and leadership. Whether Sadiq Khan's measured response will be remembered as a moment of necessary restraint or political overcorrection remains to be seen. But what is clear is that in times of crisis, the perception of who leaders choose to protect or appear to protect can shape the public's trust long after the headlines fade.
The UK is the sixth richest country in the world, yet over 1 in 3 children and 25% of adults live in poverty. Since Labour came into power, 25,000 more children have been pushed into poverty due to the two-child benefit cap. And now, according to the government's own impact assessment, over 250,000 people will be pushed into poverty as a result of these cuts, including 50,000 children. So I asked the Chancellor, who earns over £150,000 annually, has accepted £7,500 worth of free clothing, and recently took freebie tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter. Does she think austerity 2.0 is the change people really voted for?
There's nothing progressive and there's nothing Labour about pouring more money into a broken system. Under the changes that we're bringing about, we're going to help young people who are not in education, employment or training by giving them targeted support. And as I set out in the statement earlier, the OBR so far have not scored any of the Back to Work programme, which is the biggest Back to Work programme that we've seen for many, many years. They're going to do that work over the autumn. But we know that the best way to lift people out of poverty is to get them into good work, secure work, paying a decent wage. We're increasing the national living wage, so it will go up by £1,400 for someone working full-time from next month, as well as the Employment Rights Bill, which ensures that people will have security at work. That's the difference that this Labour government is making.
The Commons chamber bristled with tension this week as Labour MP Zahra Sultana delivered a pointed and provocative challenge to Chancellor Rachel Reeves, questioning the moral compass of a government poised to deliver what critics have dubbed austerity 2.0. Sultana, the left-wing MP for Coventry South and a rising figure among Labour's younger, more radical wing, took direct aim at Reeves during a heated exchange. I asked the Chancellor, who earns over £750,000 annually, has accepted $7,500 worth of free clothing, and recently took freebie tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter. Does she think austerity 2.0 is the change people really voted for? In just a few lines, Sultana stitched together the threads of public discontent: the cost of living crisis, growing inequality, and a political class perceived to be increasingly distant from the everyday struggles of working people. Her choice of words was surgical, juxtaposing luxury and pop culture perks against looming cuts to public services. For the Labour leadership, it's an uncomfortable reminder of the ideological fissures within the party. Rachel Reeves, a former Bank of England economist, has made no secret of her desire to pitch Labour as fiscally responsible and market-friendly, carefully distancing herself from the Corbyn-era rhetoric that once energized MPs like Sultana. But this centrist shift has come with political cost, particularly among younger voters and grassroots activists who feel Labour is abandoning its soul in pursuit of electoral credibility. The exchange also reveals deeper anxieties about the political moment. Labour may be cruising in the polls, but internally, questions about what kind of Labour government will come to power are far from settled. Will it be a technocratic business, friendly machine under Reeves and Starmer? Or can voices like Sultana's pull the party back toward its redistributive, class-conscious roots? Still, politics is perception. And in an age where image is inseparable from substance, the visual of a chancellor enjoying elite perks while imposing economic restraint on the public could prove politically combustible. Sultana's challenge wasn't just a swipe at Reeves. It was a broader warning to the Labour frontbench. Austerity, no matter how rebranded, remains a red flag for many of the voters Labour claims to represent. As the next budget looms, and with murmurs of public sector cuts on the horizon, Rachel Reeves may find herself facing more than just questions from the opposition benches. The real pressure may come from within her own party. Thanks for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Join the community on Telegram. Link in the description.